Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Salem the Podcast.
We are your hosts and favorite Salem tour guides.
My name is Jeffrey Lilley.
And I'm Sarah Black.
And this is a bonus episode.
Yay.
Because I was sick.
We failed you.
I was in England. It's not my fault.
Yeah,
it's probably like a little bit my fault because I traveled. But, hey, it's okay.
We're just happy that you are home and safe and healthy.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a bit of an adventure.
Yeah, many people did comment on the fact that you were stuck in Bath, and there are many worse places to be.
There are. Sort of the catch-22 of it is like I lived there. I went to school there, so I had done all the things. I've had multiple sort of last nights out, Mm-hmm. So now it would be like being stuck in wherever you live, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
I've done this. I've seen that.
Yeah. But it was nice. Took some walks.
And you were alone.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Hey, is what it is. The really only annoying part is like they had so I was pretty much asymptomatic and I just tested positive. So I was just waiting until I could get that negative test. But they didn't have any like isolation, quarantine rules or anything. So I could have gone and done anything. And if I was here, I also could have gone and done anything. Like I could have gotten on a plane, gone to Miami Beach.
Right.
But there was an ocean that I just couldn't
cross.
Yeah. And then sort of hilariously, not really at all, when I got to the airport, so you had to fill out this like pre-flight app thing. They didn't even check it.
No.
Yeah. I assume that they probably had it linked on their end as well.
Right.
But she didn't even ask for it. So I was like, oh.
I'm sure you were.
Yay. Yeah. I had like all my documents and they didn't even ask for them. But that's what it is. Back and ready to go.
But because of Jeffrey's misfortune, we now have this inspiration to do a bonus Q&A episode. We really weren't sure how many questions we would receive, but there were quite a few. So we're pretty excited to dive into this.
Got good timing. So you have all had a chance to listen and get to know us a little bit. So let's you want to get into it? Or?
Sure. Yeah.
You want to ask first or answer first?
I'll go ahead and ask me first.
I'll ask you first. Okay. So first question on the list. Dun dun dun. What is your favorite tourist spot and or attraction?
Okay, so I chose two. Very different attractions. Fair. I know. I'm sorry. I'm already breaking the rules, and it's question one. I'm sorry, but it
doesn't say what is your top two.
One is shut up. One is land based, and one is sea based. So, the trolley tour.
That's one if by land, two if by.
No, Boston. That's Boston, bro. Boston. But the trolley tour, I do it all the time. I absolutely adore it for being able to see parts of Salem that you can't really get to on foot. I mean, you could, but you'd be damn tired by the end. And then, of course, the Fame. It's always going to be my favorite. I love being able to go out in Salem's Harbor and kind of like be transported back to that time. And I feel like that experience really does that for you.
Okay.
How about you?
So I had a little bit of it was a little tough to answer this question. I don't necessarily know if I have a favorite. I think it all sort of depends on maybe not like what mood I'm in, but like what I'm looking for.
Right.
Right. Like I love a walk around almost any of the bearing points. I love to go down by the waterfront. On a gorgeous summer day, the Salem Willows, get some ice cream. So it's really like, hey, what's the vibe today?
You gave me so much shit about picking two.
I know. That's also because I knew. So I don't really, and it's like, do I love going, I don't know, like walking past the witch house, right? Sure. I don't love going in every week.
Right.
But I love that it's there. I love we can look at it. I love the idea of it. So it really sort of depends on the vibe.
What you're looking for that day.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
So it's your turn to ask. Yeah.
What is the most haunted place in Salem?
Okay. Ooh, spooky time.
I feel like we should preface this by saying that us as tour guides in town, we kind of have this joke like, oh, everything's haunted.
Everything's
That
haunted.
trash can is haunted.
Yeah.
That porta potty is haunted. But if you had to choose one.
So I talk about on my night tour a little bit the Merchant Hotel. And I then sort of make a bit of a pedantic caveat saying it's not the most haunted hotel. It's the most haunted building that happens to be a hotel because it wasn't built as a hotel. The Hawthorne Hotel is arguably the most haunted hotel because it was built as a hotel. Right? If that makes sense. So it is
semantics.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, it's the most haunted hotel. I'm like, no, it's a building that happens to be a hotel and happens to be haunted.
Right.
I think that's an important distinction because that also then brings into the effect of why it may or may not be haunted, and that of course has to do with Sheriff Corwin, the curse of Giles Corey, the fact that I don't know what to call him without being horrible. I was gonna say poor bastard. Is that okay? Can I say that? Yeah,
that's fine. I already said shit. So
okay. The fact that the poor bastard was buried in his own basement. And, after you torture someone to death and they curse you and you're buried in your own basement, when it comes to things being haunted, I like evidence.
Okay.
Right? You're like, ooh, someone was, that's the more evidence there is to attribute to something, the more apt I am to say that's a more likely scenario.
Okay. Okay. It's funny. I wrote down Merchant Hotel too. Yes, we chose the same thing.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't want to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
We haven't talked about these.
Oh,
with
yeah.
each other.
So just to clarify.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey, damn it, didn't look at them until today.
Well, I knew I looked at most of them. I didn't sit down. No, but so we don't know what each other's answers are. These aren't planned out. Right. We answer them sort of on our own.
Very impromptu.
Coming to the table.
And I think we're going to end up guessing some of each other's along the way because that's just fun.
Yeah.
I chose the Merchant Hotel. I used to stop in front of it when I used to work for the ghost tour company. Mm-hmm. And I don't anymore, but we do talk about it when we talk about Philip English and the curse of Giles Corey. And I did have, I ask everyone on tour, are you staying in the Merchant Hotel? And I'll have someone raise their hand. I tell the story. Oftentimes, they have no idea of the history. And you tell them it's regarded as one of the most haunted places in town. And they're like, oh, my God, I have to go sleep there tonight.
I've had both the, oh, my God, I don't want to stay there. And I've had the, oh, that explains that.
Ooh, okay, so I'll ask you this question as a piggyback to this. But I did have 2 instances where participants had shared encounters with me, and both of them were smoking related, tobacco related. So I don't know if there's a tobacco loving ghost in there, but I will say the first one, the gentleman was inside. He was an e-cigarette smoker. He left it on the table on the nightstand, and it started lighting up as if someone was puffing from it. He said it's never happened before. And then another man was sitting out on the front stoop smoking a pack of cigarettes, and I guess they were menthols, and you can't really get those here. So he was very in Massachusetts. So he was very excited to have his pack of menthols, and he took one out, started smoking it, looked back, and they were gone. So
it was a raccoon.
Now I need to see a little smoking raccoon outside of the Merchant Hotel. I'm going to draw that. Did you have anyone share experiences with you?
There's nothing, sort of the bump in the night standard, objects being moved or rattles and noises in the closet, these sorts of things.
It is rumored that George Washington had an encounter there.
I've heard that.
One of these days we'll have to stay.
just for science.
For science.
Yeah.
For history.
For history. I like it. Okay. I ask, what is your favorite thing to enjoy during the non-spooky season?
Being able to walk down the street.
That's a good answer.
And I guess I was thinking more along the lines of the difference between October and even just now. We have quite a few people out on the street today, but it is so much more different during those crazy months.
You can just pop in and get a coffee.
Right.
Or
you don't have to worry about waiting in line. Yeah. You don't have to worry about making a reservation at a restaurant necessarily. You can go into your favorite shops. So, and I think I really like the post spooky season, like the immediate come down, as much as it is a slight deflation of our morale, just because, it's over and all the excitement is done. We all have this bonding moment. You go around, you check in to all your people and your bartenders and your other tour workers, your museum peeps. It's like, did you survive? Like, are we good? Are we good? So I think that's probably my favorite part about the non-spooky season. How about yourself?
I was thinking more of like an event, like a thing to do.
Yeah.
So I put the Christmas trolley, the Christmas Carol.
Oh, very nice.
Which is like, yes, which you have to get tickets for if everyone's curious, like in September. Don't be like, oh, we're coming up for a weekend and just they sell out real fast, real quick.
You were the one that told me to do it.
Yeah.
And I will do it every single year from now on.
Yeah.
It was that cool. So what was the biggest Salem misconception you both had before moving here? That's you.
So I didn't.
You saying you had no misconceptions?
Not really. So I moved back to America after going to university with the intent of moving to Salem. And then it took me nearly a year to get here. But I had friends in the city, so I was coming in like every weekend. I was like crashing on their couch.
So you were very familiar with it. Plus, I think as someone who has grown up in Massachusetts, it doesn't have as much of like the shock value.
Right. Like I came here as a teenager, I'd been here on Halloween before. So there was no like big, like, oh, Miskins,
Yeah.
I think I don't know, that it's bigger than, wait, hold on. That's not the right. It's more than just downtown. Like we have a Target and a Walmart. There's like a normal part of
it doesn't look like the 18th century.
Really, I knew what I was getting myself into. What about you?
So obviously I moved here from Michigan. I started visiting my dad here, I mentioned, in 2010. So I think the year prior to that, I was, of course, in high school, and we did the Crucible, like most high school classes do. Mm-hmm. And that was my only basis of knowledge for Salem when I first came to visit. My dad moved here because he was going to be working in Cambridge, just outside of Boston, part of Boston. And Salem at that point, not nearly as expensive as it is now, but it was a very safe community. He saw it as an opportunity. We're from the Midwest, right? Like, you don't want it. We're not big city people. So he saw Salem as a good opportunity to be able to bring his daughters here and show them a good time. Let them, he had no fear of us walking the streets at night, even as adolescents. But my only understanding of Salem prior to coming here was the Crucible.
And that's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. I talk about it on my tours. I just mentioned it last night. Someone asked me, didn't this all start with a bunch of girls dancing around in the woods naked? It's like, no. Are you referring to the Crucible there? And then we have that discussion.
Like I'm kind of glad you're remembering your 11th grade history. Maybe that means you're remembering other things that we should learn in high school, but the Crucible isn't historically accurate. So
Right.
Ooh, next question. I like this one. Favorite cemetery in Salem and favorite cemetery anywhere else?
I'm going to make you guess mine. Come on.
Harmony Grove?
Yeah.
I was just blanking on the name. Harmony Grove.
Okay. I was going to say.
I was like,
I've literally dragged you there before. I dragged a lot of people there.
You didn't have to drag me. I was excited.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, like, okay. Yes. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Harmony Grove is gorgeous. I am so close to it now. I could walk from my new apartment. Yeah. 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
minutes.
You could. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I keep moving the table. But Harmony Grove, we also got another question that was like, what's off the beaten path? And we'll end up answering that later down the line. But this I would also consider is off the beaten path. It's just outside of historic downtown, and it is one of the most beautiful cemeteries I have ever been in. I was completely taken aback. I've been going for years. I go and sometimes walk through with my morning coffee just because it's so, I don't know, there's just something about it. And it's where a lot of like the rich and powerful of Salem buried their loved ones. So the memorials you see in that place are just
a little more extravagant.
Exactly. Especially compared to a lot of the smaller cemeteries you see right downtown. You see like little headstones. A lot of stuff is worn down, but this one,
It's just like
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
It is beautiful in the winter. It is beautiful in the spring. It is beautiful in the summer, and it's beautiful in the fall. You go year round.
So what about outside of Salem?
I'd probably have to say, I'm sad to say that I have not experienced enough cemeteries outside of Salem. And it's kind of hard to beat them.
You've been to Mount Auburn.
Oh, that was actually on my list.
Okay.
I didn't even look at my list. Hold on, ask me that question again.
No. This isn't getting ended. This is how it's going in.
Okay, fine, yeah. All I had to do was look forward. It's right there. I literally wrote Harmony Grove and Mount Auburn. Yes. Okay, so when my initial thought when I was looking at this question was to go to New Orleans because, I mean, the above ground crypts are very cool. Fascinating to me. But yeah, Mount Auburn is glorious. I like to think of it as a larger version of Harmony Grove. How about you?
So in Salem, I'm going to be cliche, Charter Street. But really for like a few...
Old Burying Point?
Yeah, the old burying point, the Charter Street burying point. So for a few reasons, one, I think it's quaint, it's cool. But there's some things in it that I think make it very interesting. First and foremost, Captain Richard Moore, he's a Mayflower passenger. I think that's just neat.
I believe it's one of the only actual headstones for a Mayflower passenger that exists. It's very sparse.
And he was 7 when he came over on the Mayflower, and he's the only member of his family to survive that winter. So, to me, you're like, that's a life lived. Like, age 7, traveling the Atlantic, your whole family dies, and then he ends up dying in 1692, same year as the trials. And you're like, the shit you saw is just, to me, just fascinating. But then, in addition, it also has the Lindell Stone, which unfortunately you can't get to anymore because they put the paths in. You have to walk on them. But it is flanked on either side by these absolutely gorgeous sculptures is the wrong word. Designs like these funerary images.
Yeah. One's a skeleton.
One's a skeleton, like a full body skeleton. Yep. Hips, femurs, tibia, bones, ribs, spine, skull. Gorgeous work. And on their side is probably Father Time. A lot of people sort of say death, but death is typically pictured with sort of no face and or no feet. So this is an old man. He has a beard. You can see his feet very plainly. He's holding a scythe, sort of Reaper-esque. But he also has a little hourglass above his head.
Very cool.
And is probably one of my most favorite stones I've really ever seen.
We will definitely get a picture up for everyone to see.
Yeah.
I think I know which stone you're talking about, but I have never actually seen it in person. I have slight resentment towards them putting the paths up, but that's only because I got to experience it before. Yeah, it's obviously good for the cemetery as a whole.
And then in terms of
outside of Salem.
I'm going to be super cliche, and I'm sorry to everyone listening. Highgate in London, which is probably one of the most gorgeous cemeteries in the world. It's just like, if you see it, Google it, you're just like, it's remarkable.
Did you go during your last trip?
Not this past time. But then another thing that's interesting talking about England is they have abbeys, which we don't have. And you think like Westminster Abbey, Bath Abbey, right?
It's like when people are interred
so
in the walls.
In the walls, in the floors. So you're just walking around and you are like literally surrounded by dead bodies. And that is, I think, Westminster Abbey. And I'm sorry, I've like answered this question like 6 times over now. But Westminster Abbey, you're like, oh, there's a king. There's a King Henry VII. Rudyard Kipling's over there. Winston Churchill's in the ground over there. All like in.
So cool.
It's very, very surreal. And I remember the first time I went into an abbey, I didn't know. I can't remember how old I was. I was probably like 16, 18. And just, oh, I'm going to, cool. And then you're like,
Oh.
oh, that was cool.
You know, it's ironic. People say that the Merchant Hotel is the most haunted place in Salem because
someone's buried.
You know, Sheriff Corwin, you know, was buried for several years underneath what is now today the building, and yet you go to an abbey
and you're just like
surrounded by them.
The Bath Abbey is where my university has their graduations. So you're just like, cool, here's your degree. Walk over this dead person.
That's weird. That's very weird.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are your favorite restaurants?
All of them.
I think of all the questions, this is very much like you were saying earlier, the feel.
So I was going to say, getting back to it, I get this question a lot at the end of a tour. Where's your favorite? Where would you recommend to eat? And I'm like, honestly, almost anywhere.
The food's awesome.
What do you want? Do you want seafood? Do you want Mexican? Do you want like burgers? Do you want sushi? Do you want Indian? Like, we have a wide variety of food, and it's really sort of what your preference is. Like, do you want, and I'm going to use Finn's and Turner's as an example. I think Turner's is probably better food.
Mm-hmm.
However, Finn's is on the waterfront.
That view.
So
you can't beat it.
Like, and Finn's is very good food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean,
it's a little bit more casual setting as well.
Yeah. So it's like, do you want great seafood in a historic building, or do you want really good seafood on a building in the waterfront? And at the end of the day, I can't tell you which one.
And you're not going to lose either way.
Either one you're going to be happy with.
So I went a little bit more specific with mine. 2 things. Actually, 3 things. I am a Red's and Opus regular. So I probably go to Red's Sandwich Shop for...
Every morning?
No, not every morning. I'd say at least once a week. Uh-huh. It's like my go-to breakfast space. It just feels super homey. Yeah. And as a Midwest girl, that's the vibe that you get at a lot of like diners back at home.
Do they have like wagon wheels and stuff in there? Or?
I mean, yeah, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised. So as much as I go to Red's, I go to Opus probably just as much, maybe even more. That's like my go-to post-tour spot. Mm-hmm. If I'm like going out in town, their cocktails are just so good. All Souls as well. Yeah. Great cocktails. And the last thing I'll mention, the best food that I've ever had in Salem, like the best dinner, has been at Ledger. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
I would counter that with
Give it to me.
Settler.
Oh, yeah, of course. Their food's great. I've only gone once.
Yeah, I've been, I think, 3 times now. It's, tiny hole in the wall and real small, but fantastic food.
Very small. Yeah. Definitely have to make reservations for that one.
Next question is, what is your favorite off the beaten path place in Salem?
So I'm gonna say Danvers, which you're like, what?
Oh, well,
what?
Salem Village.
No, but seriously, I was thinking, I was thinking about it, and you guys are going to hear the next episode. We're not telling you who we're interviewing, but in that episode, which we recorded months ago, in fact, we talk about this question. What's the off the beaten path thing to do in Salem? And one of our guests says, there's really nothing. It is a small town. It's all right here. So I would say, if you're coming out here for the witch trials, which most people are, think about what Salem was back then. In 1692, it wasn't just this small port town. It included what is today Danvers. So go over and check out their spots. They actually have more buildings directly tied to the trials than we do.
The past parsonage, yeah.
And even their memorial. So
yeah.
So I would say if you have time, especially if you have a car, go pop over to Danvers.
Okay.
And if the Halloween crowds are too much, like October crowds, spooky season, even in the summertime, if you want to
for a table, you're going to get into a restaurant if you want.
That's true.
Yeah.
How about you?
Forest River Park.
Ah, very nice.
Which, I have the fortunate.
I was going to say you're like 5
I have the fortune.
Minutes
yeah,
away?
It's like a 5-minute walk from my house. So that's right on the water. It's a nice little park. Go get a breakfast sandwich, sit down. when the water's warm enough, I usually go swimming out in the ocean there. And
You've told me that before, but I'm just like, it still stuns me.
yeah. Or I'll just go sit on the rocks and just sit out watching the harbor. And I'm either thinking like this is just a very pleasant place to be. You know, I'm still in Salem.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm also thinking like, what was this like 2, 3, 4, 500 years ago? Like, and this is where I get, you know, sort of existential in my, you know, who else has sat here?
Right. Who else has seen this
You
view?
know? Yeah. It's not a bench, it's a rock. So it's been there for
Who knows how long?
who knows how long. And
That's so cool.
like, I'm sure there were maybe, you know, Puritans and you know, maybe, you know, people in the Revolution
And even long before that.
Yeah, but Forest River was used as a temporary tent city after the Great Fire. So there are people staying there after they lost their houses. And like you were saying, even way back before, the indigenous people in the land. So it's less like a little area that I'm like, there have been countless people who've just probably sat in this same spot.
And it's a bit outside of historic downtown.
Yeah.
It gives you a chance to once again get away
Yeah.
and take a breather.
So that's my off the beaten path.
Very nice. All right. So I really loved this question. What is your dream Salem home?
36 Ocean Avenue.
Is that the Max and
Nope.
Max Dead?
Nope.
Oh, very nice.
You know which one?
Yep, it's right. It's a block closer to Lafayette
Uh-huh.
Street, and it's this beautiful orange color. It's like it's the color of the sweater I'm wearing
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
It is breathtaking.
Yeah.
The fact that I think it's one family
Yeah,
that
I don't think
owns
it's
it.
split into condos. It's one house. It has a little garden, a little garage. It's like this pumpkin orange with green trim. It's right on Ocean Avenue.
I'm sure the owners won't appreciate this, but like say the address again just to reiterate.
36 Ocean Avenue.
I mean, people are going to go down to
If
the
anyone
Hocus
has
Pocus
walked
house anyway.
down
So.
to Max's house at the end of Ocean Avenue, you have walked past 36 Ocean Avenue, and it is an absolutely gorgeous little house. They have this little.
You say little is not little.
It's not, but it's quaint enough in its styling. So where I live, there's a lot of very big houses.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are split into apartments and condos, right? So you see these, like the house I live in, it's arguably huge, but it's just an apartment. It's one floor. So it's not like the whole thing. With this house, it's not as big as the house that I'm in, but it's a little more nooky, and it's got a little thing and this little wraparound porch.
The details on that place are incredible.
So one day.
You got to buy it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean? What else option is there?
Yeah, I guess. Hey, put it out into the universe.
Right?
I asked for a penguin picture, and I got
And
one
you got a
within
penguin
hours. Within hours. If you don't follow us on Instagram, please do. We've been sharing a lot of just extra content to go along with our episodes, and someone tagged us in a penguin picture from the Peabody Essex Museum. So remember, if you're going in, keep an eye out for those artifacts, and we'd love to see them. All right, so it's my turn.
Yes.
You know.
I do know. I don't know the address.
I just saw the address yesterday.
Hope, Hale.
Nope.
Is it an H?
Nope. It's a B.
Bale. It's like a 4-letter word, right?
So a couple of years ago, I was stumbling through the McTyre District.
Stumbling like a little.
No. It was like a daytime stroll through downtown. And for the longest time, up until literally a couple weeks ago, I have lived on like the northern part of Salem, just below the Beverly Bridge. Mm-hmm. So it was a quick trot.
Where Philip English used to live.
Yes, actually. Yes. I was quite close to his property in my last apartment, in fact. But I very rarely ventured deep into the McTyre District. I was much more of like a waterfront fan. I would go out on the Derby Wharf. I'd be by the ocean. I was a little worried moving this way, but oh my gosh, is it gorgeous. And I just happened to be right around the corner from my favorite house. So like I said, I was walking through a couple years back. I went down this little corridor. I say it's a corridor because it doesn't look like a full street. Like it almost looks like someone's driveway.
Like a driveway
and it goes right between Chestnut and Essex Street. It's called Botts.
Okay.
Botts Court. I was strolling down yesterday and I happened to see like the owner pull in to that house, and it's a gorgeous, cute little cottage house. We'll post pictures of our favorite houses. But the house part that I love that looks like this quaint little witch's cottage, and there's a beautiful wildflower garden right next to it. It's only their garage. Like I saw the car pull into it.
So where's the
and
actual
then I watched
house?
him walk into the actual house.
So
when you're coming down from the Essex Street way, I think it's 6 Botts Court.
Okay. So I'd been wondering because it is very small, but it's not to say it couldn't be a house. Like you could very easily park and live above it.
It probably was at one
Yeah,
point, or maybe it was probably a carriage house at some point.
And it is probably, I mean, it's very small, but it's probably bigger than some studio apartments.
Yes.
So
I'm guessing so that it does have a little loft area on top and a lot of what looks like a greenhouse on the bottom floor next to the garage, a lot of windows. This is all speculation. I'm just dreaming about how I would use the space.
This is what I would do.
But yeah, so that's my favorite. Okay. It looks like this
a
tucked away
quintessential English cottage. Yeah.
Yep.
And like juxtaposed against the opulence of the rest of the McTyre District.
Absolutely.
It's like a little hidden gem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, my turn next. What itinerary would you give to someone coming to Salem during Halloween?
I feel like we should answer this question together. Because
like simultaneously.
Well, I mean, like just as a conversation,
okay,
because I think we're probably thinking the same thing. Like nothing.
I mean,
I would say don't.
That's literally mine says don't.
Okay.
Mine says don't.
Don't drive in. First of all, make plans ahead of time to like take the train in and take an Uber out.
So this question threw me a little bit. During Halloween, do you mean like
no, I mean I think I want to answer this question on Halloween.
On October 31st.
Yes, it's such a unique day, and it is so different than any time that you would visit outside of that day that I think we should tackle it, on its own.
Yeah.
So first thing, definitely not drive.
No. If you can get away with it, any weekend in October, don't drive. Park at a local train station.
At a town north.
At a town. Try not to take an Uber, take a train in, or get here very, very, very early. Park in the garage, take a nap in your car, that sort of thing.
Plan on not really eating in restaurants. Yeah. I would not waste the time on trying to get in there. I would just go with a street vendor food.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, that's what I do. And
yeah.
I live here.
When I'm done with tours for the day, I go grab a sausage and I wander around. And
you're looking at multiple hours of a wait to get into a restaurant. And at that point, let's be honest, on the 31st, we're all exhausted. Like the experience you may get isn't going to be the best.
Unless there was a restaurant like directly taking like reservations and you've done it before, don't count on that.
Yep.
But it's what you're going to make of it. It's going to be busy. It's going to be crowded. It's going to be loud. It's going to be costume. Bring some water. In a normal year, we're going to have several sections of the city cordoned off the roads. You can't drive. Several stages with bands, beer gardens, the works.
Wear layers, because obviously temperature out here in New England changes drastically, especially with us right on the water.
Yeah. 2 years ago, it snowed on the 31st. Sorry.
It was horrible.
Snowed on the 30th.
Yep.
31st, there's still like a couple inches of snow on the ground, and it had warmed up enough during the day that a little bit of it melted. So then it was a little icy on Halloween night.
The year before that, it was supposed to downpour, but because of the way Salem is positioned geographically, a lot of storms just kind of miss us.
Yeah.
We're kind of like a peninsula out into the ocean. And it ended up being awesome because a lot of people canceled their plans because they thought it was going to rain. And
then
It ended up being,
years ago.
I think it ended up being like 60 degrees and humid, believe it or not, at the end of October.
I think 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember. It was I think it was Game 7 of the World Series with the Red Sox.
Nice.
In Boston.
Oh my God, I remember this.
Maybe it wasn't Game 7, and so don't quote me, but the game had ended and everyone's trying to leave Fenway. So half the world has left Fenway, half the world is trying to get into Salem, and no one can get into North Station. There was I was hearing reports of miles long lines to get into North Station. And so no one could take the train. And as a result, since no one could get into North Station to take the train to Salem, it was kind of empty.
No way.
It was a little more quiet. Yeah.
I bet there were so many people that were pissed and all in costumes.
And then there was big lines of traffic to get in. And so it was just a weird two things were going on the same day. And that interrupted everyone's plans. I think by the time the evening rolled around, it started to get busier. But there was a chunk of time during the day where we're where is everyone? They're well, they can't get it through North Station.
Damn. So obviously plan transportation ahead of time. I would say also to go all out on your costume. You're going to see some of the most amazing costumes you've ever seen on
weird,
these streets.
Crazy.
Yeah, this is the time where you get to be as much yourself as you possibly can. So go at it and just take it in. People watch. Just spend time on the streets. The whole place turns into a big block party, and that's really the best part about it.
Till 10.
Till 10. Yes, you got to keep that in mind. 11. I thought 11 is when I believe. No, they wouldn't be that late. I think it's 10.
10?
You might be right.
Regardless of 10 or 11, it doesn't go till 2 in the morning. This is not New York City. We shut down, we close, we have fireworks, and then we kick you out. Bye. So, let's see. What do we got next?
Most asked question on tours.
Other than where do you go to eat? Probably something having to do, and I'm guessing you're going to probably say the same thing.
Yeah.
Something having to do.
Ooh, 1, 2, 3.
Ergot.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. God.
I had a tour just this past weekend. Sorry, I know it's your turn to go.
No, same answer. We got this.
So I had a tour this past weekend, and at one point I asked people, have you heard, you talk about the theories, right? Theories as to why this all got started, why the girls were acting in such strange ways. And I ask folks to give me their thoughts. Have you learned anything in school about this? Have you read anything online? Which can be a dangerous question to ask. But someone made it a point to be yeah, I have one. She said that it was relatively new. And
I have heard that as well.
And I've also heard it described as a conspiracy. So it was very interesting, the fact that not only is this theory being perpetuated still, but it's almost being regurgitated. People are now trying to bring it back to the surface, which is wild.
I think it's the easiest, and I think we've probably mentioned this before, so we're not going to harp on it too much. It is the easiest answer, right? Why is everything happening? They were hallucinating. Wow, that makes sense. Let's move on. That way, you're not blaming, the patriarchy. You're not blaming religious extremism. You're not blaming
human nature,
community boundaries, children's safety. You're not blaming England. You're not blaming starvation. You're not blaming the indigenous people.
And by extension, ourselves, because we are humans, right?
Because all of those things then also rest upon our shoulders. So when you just say, oh, they were hallucinating, they were on drugs, you're like, oh, that's an easy answer.
Makes for a much more colorful story, but thus an inaccurate one.
Yeah. So let's not ask that, please, because you're wrong. And it's not just that you're wrong. If you perpetuate that narrative,
you're
misinformed, and it's nothing new. This narrative was first proposed nearly 50 years ago and debunked within months.
Yeah.
So it's bad science that has been shown to be untrue over and over and over again. So moving on, is it my turn or your turn?
My turn.
Okay.
Wait, no, it's your turn.
My turn. What site in town do you feel is the most beautiful and peaceful place to visit?
So I already mentioned Harmony Grove, but Cemetery, but I'm going to throw that one out to answer this question again. But also the Willows. Did you have that one as well?
I have 3 answers.
Okay.
It depends partly on the time of year and the time of day.
Well done. You picked this one apart.
So my first answer is the Ropes Mansion, the gardens.
Absolutely.
However, when they are fully in bloom, I think is the most beautiful time to visit, right? Mm-hmm. On like an afternoon in May or June, right? Absolutely gorgeous. And they continue to be in bloom for most of the summer, but they have some seasonal flowers and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But it does get a little busy. Like, it is a hidden gem, but on a weekend in July, it's still going to be a little busy. Just like the Willows. The Willows are gorgeous, but on a nice Saturday afternoon, they are packed. You know, everyone's getting ice cream, everyone's getting popcorn, everyone's going to the beach, there's families, there's barbecues, which is great, but it gets a little busy.
It can be a little loud.
Yeah, but the wharf, if you're looking for somewhere to take a walk at 1 a.m,
I have taken many walks out there.
I did that with my brother a couple weeks ago.
At 1?
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. We left All Souls and walked out to the lighthouse.
When I used to live in my old apartment just off of Derby Street, I would have to walk past it to get home for my tours. And I would almost always, at least when the weather was nice, take a walk out to that lighthouse because it's just so peaceful. And you'll pass by people, but it's usually pretty empty.
So I'd say that those would be my top 3. And, you know.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
So favorite non-witch trial related location, which I think we just listed off quite a few.
I was going to say, I double hit on this one. I put the Willows.
I put the wharf.
There we go.
I love it. Yeah, like I just mentioned, walk past it all the time. And also the whole Seaport District in general. Like, we just released our episode on Salem's maritime history, and that area, it really does transport you back. So
you always want like little like sounds of shipping clatter, whatever that, you know, right? Like the whistles and the bells.
I totally know what you mean. Yeah. I just didn't know how you were going to describe that.
Neither did
shipping clatter.
Okay, so quickly on the next one. Where do you live if not the Witch City?
I put New Orleans. Honestly, I have no desire to live anywhere else. I mean, maybe that's cheating on this question, but you know, this was a big move for me in general, moving out of Michigan, moving out of the Midwest. And if I had to stay, all I would know is I'd have to stay by water. So I'd probably live somewhere up along the East Coast. Nothing too hot, though. How about you?
I think we know the answer to that.
Bath, England.
Yeah.
Well, you were just there.
I was, stuck there.
There.
No place like home.
Next question.
Oh.
So I've gotten this one a couple times, and we should just put this to bed.
Do you want to ask and answer?
Yeah, I'll ask. Are you two a couple?
You know what I put?
What did you put?
Ew.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That's really funny. I put in all caps, no, which I guess isn't that much better. No, we are just good friends who happen to do the same type of job.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay.
I'm like a little, I'm not sorry.
That's so funny. Hilarious. That's so funny.
No, we are not. Sorry.
The amount of time I spend with you is quite incredible, I will say.
Yeah.
And we've become incredibly close friends before this even started. So I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else.
I don't know if I could.
I don't know if you could either.
So we're not a couple. What's the next question?
And apparently I'm you.
Okay, I did say that. I was going to say I didn't say that. I
did. You did.
Yeah.
This is your turn to ask.
Number 1 favorite thing about Salem.
So this question was kind of hard. I don't know if this like counts, but then again, we're making the rules for this, so it doesn't really matter. I would say it's uniqueness. I just feel like there's no place like it. I mean, I haven't traveled the world or anything, so I don't know. And I know that I'm going to be taken aback when I go to these magnificent places, you know, in South America, Europe, Australia. That's high on my list. But there's something about Salem and the energy here and just the people. You can't replicate it. From the diverse history to like the modern Halloween celebrations. I spent, you know, an hour and a half walking around today, just soaking in different parts of Salem that I haven't seen before. I've lived here for 6 years. Like, it doesn't get old. How about you?
The vibe.
The vibe.
Right? Which is the same thing.
Absolutely.
And it is this juxtaposition, that's not the right word, of history, of spooky, of Halloween, authentic, you know, actual practicing Wiccans, pagans, of gothy, of good coffee and good food and genuine people. I think there's a genuineness to the city, which I think stems from the, you know,
the fact that we're not Halloween town to begin with.
Well, I mean, yeah. I was going to say the crimes that we committed.
Okay. So, yeah, basically from our origins.
So our origin story has grown up to allow, in today's world, people to be their authentic selves in whatever fashion that is. And I think that shows through in the businesses, in the street performers, in the restaurants, in your servers, in just the vibe.
Yeah, people feel safe here and safe to be themselves.
Exactly.
So how about one secret hidden gem in Salem to check out? Maybe something that's underrated.
I don't know. I know you're looking at me like, come on, you had the question in front of you.
And I know at this point we have given them a lot of different places to check out. So if you want to repeat something, reiterate something.
We talked a lot about locations and these sorts of things, but I think a secret hidden gem, I think everyone knows about the stores, right? I think they come here for like the experience, but then when you get to go shopping in places that sort of reflect these things, I think that adds to it. And a lot of these places have this, like, some have like a spooky, tarot-y, reedy vibe. Some have a shipping, maritime, seafaring vibe. Some have, you know, whatever, the artsy, eclectic, you know, museums, whatever it may be. So, and they're all a little different. They're all a little weird. They're all a little fun. And I think they are all together a good representation of Salem. So nothing in particular, just I'm sure all
hit
of
them
you know.
All is basically what
Go
you're saying.
shopping.
Go shopping. I'm sure our modern day merchants here in town will thank you for that. So I actually did have an answer for this one. The gardens behind the Derby House. Right, you know, in between Essex Street and Derby Street. And the, as I already mentioned in this episode, that was kind of my area down that way. So I spent a lot of time in the Seaport District. So whether you're walking down Derby Street or Essex Street, you can get to it either way. There is this like cut through. It's like right behind the Customs House, right on the waterfront, right behind the Derby House, which is this quaint brick house right to the right of it. And if you're coming up the Essex Street way, it is just before the Daniels House, that bed and breakfast we mentioned in the Witch House. So there's this cute little walkthrough, and you'll come upon this beautiful little garden behind the Derby House. So I believe that house was purchased for Derby's daughter? No.
The Derby House, if memory serves, it's been a while, was a wedding present from Elias Haskett Derby to from Elias
to
Haskett
his
Derby's
son.
Elias Haskett Derby's father gave it to him as a wedding present.
Yes.
Okay. And it is, again, if memory serves me correctly, the first brick house in Salem.
I don't know about that, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's this beautiful garden just behind that house that I think most people don't even notice unless you're walking down that way. So go take a look. Nothing like the Ropes Mansion Gardens, but
No, it's still nice.
Still definitely worth venturing through. Ooh, this is a fun one. What is the strangest tip you've ever gotten after a tour? Like gratuity.
Let's see. I'm going to list two real quick. One time, I had some friends on tour who I hadn't seen in a while, and I had comped them. It was 4 of them. And
are you about to give dollar amounts here?
No.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah. But he insisted on paying and tipping. Which I thought was incredibly, and it started one of these things, and I didn't realize he handed me a tip, and I went back and looked later, and I realized what he'd done, and I had been generous, and in return, he had also been generous.
It's very kind.
So I thought that was very nice, and it's sort of like a pass it forward kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, always try and be generous. But I think one of the strangest, a gentleman at one point handed me a few coins, just sort of like a little stack of
like
coins.
Pirate coins?
Yeah, I didn't know I thought they were quarters.
Oh, no.
I thought he'd given me like
thrown them back at him.
Like a couple dollars in quarters. And as you're getting tips, you just sort of, put them in your pocket or whatever. And I get back to my office and I look, and they were the dollar coins. They were the gold dollar coins.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't seen one of those in like at least 10 years.
Yeah. So I think it was probably like $5 or $6 on that, which was neat. And that then inspired me to do something as well. This past October was I had to go to my brother's wedding. And what I decided to do, I was like, well, you give a gift, right? And maybe just being a little, I don't know, whatever. I didn't want to.
Extra?
Yeah, a little extra. But also like, oh, here's a gift registry, right? Unique. I was like, instead of just writing a check, here's $200. Originally, I was going to give it in $2 bills.
Which would have been cool.
And then I was like, wait, I can give it in dollar coins. So I went, and you can just get them online. So it's my brother's wedding, so I was like, I got to give him something. So get a couple $100 in these gold coins. I cleaned them all. So I I didn't know where they were from, right?
Yeah.
And then I got like a leather coin purse, and I dumped all the coins in there, and then
you what?
I added a bunch of glitter.
What? Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
After you cleaned them?
Yeah. Well, it's gold, so then they'd be like gold dusty, and like if you dumped them out, you'd have.
That's just cruel. I was gonna ask, like, has he used them since? I don't know how often people go up and pay with gold coins.
Yeah,
but now he
glitter.
Definitely can't, because he's gonna have to wash them all.
The glitter was all biodegradable.
It doesn't mean it's not going to get all over his house.
Right, but you could wash them easily. I made sure that it was biodegradable. And
Did you try washing one of those? Because glitter is sticky.
Yeah, whatever.
And I bet it did not wash off as easily as you anticipated.
It's not my problem.
My God.
So
hilarious.
So that little tip that gentleman gave me inspired that fun little wedding present. Wow.
I'm going to recruit someone to give you a tip that's covered in glitter one day, so you can understand the peril that you put your brother through. We can cut that.
To be fair, it's probably my sister-in-law. Probably wasn't my brother.
Oh.
Let's be honest.
All right. So for me,
what about you?
So I had a tour a couple years ago where my flashlight was dying. We were at the Witch Trials Memorial. This is towards the end of the tour. And it just kind of went, and you can throw out your phone and do the flashlight from there. And it's fine. It's not as classy, but I just happened to have on this group of 10 people, may not have even been that many. There was a solo traveler. He was in town for work. He was an engineer, I think, and he worked for a flashlight company. And he pulled out a flashlight like a very chunky industrial one and gave it to me and was like, oh, here, like have flashlight. I was like, okay.
Like, I know a guy. Like, you can keep this.
Well, he didn't tell me until after the fact, like I could keep the flashlight. Like that's part of his job. But yeah, he pulls out this big flashlight from his pocket. And so we continue the tour. I'm able to illuminate all the stones in the Salem Witch Trials Memorial.
Miles in each direction.
Right. And then he's like, oh, no, keep it. This is my job. So I walked away that day with like a couple cash tips and a flashlight, an industrial one. And then I had, this one's way more bizarre, and I really didn't know what to think of it. I had this past October a couple adolescents on my tour, and they were like all giggly towards the end. They were coming up with a tour, like, right? Yeah. They're coming up to me to give me a tip, and they give me like a 5, and then they give me this little purple baby. Like we're talking maybe a centimeter tall. It reminds me of festivals. Like I once found a little plastic baby hand on the ground at a music festival once. Like I don't get it. I don't know what they're all about. But
probably drugs.
Gosh, I hope not, because these were adolescents that gave me this little purple baby. But yeah, so I almost, as I was moving, I came across it. I thought really hard about just throwing it out because, like, I don't need this. What is this? But then I was like, I can't throw this out. I want to remember this moment.
Yeah.
I also have a handwritten letter written to me.
I think you've told me that before.
I'll read it one day on this podcast, but I have it tucked away. Someone wrote to us about a month and a half after the tour, and that was back before I was even an official guide. I was just in training, and I happened to serve them at Beer Works the next day, and we just had this really great connection, and they wrote us a handwritten letter, which was very cool. So,
well, that's very cool.
Yeah. Tip your tour guides and your servers, and
you know. we will take offerings in whatever form. Small plastic dolls, cash, gold coins, whatever it is. Flashlights. Okay. So, next question is, how do I book a tour? But hold on. The question after that asks sort of what we do on tour and some more specific questions. I'd like to do a bunch, including history, hocus pocus, etc. So why don't we cover all of that?
Yeah. All right. So if you want to book a tour with Jeffrey or myself, we always include links to both of our companies in the show notes. So if you scroll down below your episode, you'll have a direct link to both of them.
Pick one or both. However, what I'm going to ask, just regardless whether you pick me or Sarah or anyone else in the city, go through the company. Don't go through like a third party.
Like TripAdvisor or anything like that.
Yeah. And that's for whenever you travel. Whenever you go anywhere, try to book directly through the company or business you're working for, because all those third party companies, they take a little off the top.
So when it comes to what tours we offer, I think we could do like just a really brief overview real quick. Remember, I work for Bewitched Tours. You may have heard of us as Bewitched After Dark. They were founded, like, I think we're going into our 9th year. It was created by a Salem local. His name's Jeff Page. He's been here all his life, obsessed with the witch trials. And because of that, we give like a very in-depth look at the witch trials. So I like to say that we give the most in-depth look out of any tour or any location-based experience as well. I mean, it's a bold statement to make, but I stand by it. So ours is very history-based, very trial-based, but we get into the dark details. So it does get pretty heavy at some stops. We don't shy away from that dark history, but we are the folks that you go to if you don't really want a ghost tour.
Yeah, and I own, operate, and give tours for Better Than Fiction, Salem Walking Tours. It's my tour company. I started it 1 year ago, so I am just coming up, or I've literally just passed my 1 year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Anniversary. And I give 2 tours. So afternoons, I give tours on the trials. That's an hour and a half, so a little shorter than you, so can't get into as much detail in some places. But I like to sort of give a more comprehensive is the wrong word. I think we all do a pretty fair job. I think some tours in town are very date and time heavy, right? This person, this thing, da-da-da.
Some are also very theatrical.
Yeah. So when I talk about the trials, I like to give a little more story, a little more narrative, talk about some of the individuals in particular, and go from there. I think you're better going to, hopefully my goal is at the end of the day, you walk away with a better understanding of what happened. And then at night, I give a dark history tour. So not much on the trials, a little bit, because we can't talk about Salem's dark history without talking about arguably one of the worst things we did. But we got cemetery stories. We got pirates, magicians, murder, death, torture, legal battles, all that fun stuff.
All the things.
But it's not haunted. It's not one of those ghost tours.
That's good.
Yes.
I feel like that's hard to come by.
Yeah. So it's a night tour that is not ghost, history-based, on the dark side of Salem.
So that's what we both have in common, that I would say. We both, if you're, may I plug one of our comrades here? If you are looking for a ghost, paranormal centered tour.
Are you going to say?
Yep. Go check out Mike Vitka of Spellbound Tours. He does a tour called Voodoo, Vampires, and Ghosts, and he's just phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
We actually took his tour this past summer, and I was captivated.
Like the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
So he used to be my go-to. So Mike and I go back, probably, God, I don't even want to say how many years at this point. We went to high school together.
Yeah, so that's a lot of years.
It's a lot of years.
You don't have to say how many.
But whenever I came to town, so I've taken his tour probably 5 or 6 times now. And the last time I did it, I booked under like a pseudonym, like an old high school reference name.
I love it.
And he's so much fun. He's such a character. So if you're looking for that ghost, spooky, haunted thing, go there. And hey, if you're here for multiple nights, maybe
do multiple tours. Yeah, actually, this person asked about a Hocus Pocus centric one. The only one that I know of is through Witch City Walking Tours. I believe that they do take you to all the spots, which would be like, Pioneer Village in Forest River, the Ropes Mansion. But it's also very spread out. So you have to, I'm pretty sure it's a very long tour. You have to walk a lot. But keep that in mind if you are trying to do if you're trying to hit all the Hocus Pocus.
There's 5 spots in town
in a tour. Yeah. You can go see them on your own.
Yeah, I just go see them on your own, take a quick picture, and be done with it. So when it comes to a tour, check out the show notes. Come take a tour with Sarah and Jeffrey. Come see both of us. We want to see you.
And hey, during summertime, you may see us out getting a post-tour drink at All Souls.
Yeah.
If you ever see us,
come say hi.
Yeah, we'd love to meet you. Absolutely. And I will be that person. If you see me on the street and you have a question about Salem, I'll answer it.
Oh, yeah.
If you need directions, I'll be there. All right.
So do we have, I think this is the last and final question.
We've got 3 more. So this one, I'm actually going to read verbatim from the individual because it was very specific. It said, I've seen all the attractions and touristy things, but I am coming with my daughter and her friends who have not been here. What are the top 5 things they must check out? Also, what places are dog friendly as far as eateries, walking in town, and shops? I'm looking for more of a local view on everyday life. And one last thing, when are your scheduled tours? Do they go during the day? I love the podcast, Danny. So thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
So that's a lot of questions all in one. If you had to name top 5, actually, let's take care of the tours during the day.
Okay, so I have tours during the day, in the afternoon at 3, and evening tours at 7. And that's going to also change in October. I'm going to have tours 4 or 5 times a day.
Right.
In the busier seasons, but typically it's just one in the afternoon, one in the evening.
Right. Right now, I'm only doing 7 p.m.s, but we oftentimes add in a 3 p.m. during weekends in the summertime. So as Salem gets busier, we will be adding day tours. The day tours are kind of cool because if you have a small enough group, you can go into the cemetery if it's open, things like that. So there are some pluses and minuses to either one. Of course, the nighttime people think it's a little bit more spooky. So if you're looking for that vibe.
Yeah.
But then top 5 favorite things.
Okay, so I'm going to...
And also, let's also say that depending on the age of this, you said that your daughter is coming with your friends. Of course, that's... So I'm just going to shoot and say that it's like anywhere from 12 to 16 years old. We get a lot of sweet 16s, so.
Okay, I was thinking like 16 to 21. Okay. So let's
Either way.
the gamut of things here. So first and foremost, the age of the people with you is going to be dependent on some things you can do. Whether that's younger kids, you're bringing your parents, whatever the case may be, you might not want to go to All Souls till 1 a.m. You know, there are some things for kids that are very kid-centric. There are some things that they're going to get very, very sick of. And that's also a blanket statement. I know some 14-year-olds have read, like, you know, The House of Seven Gables, Scarlet Letter, and they are frothing at the mouth to go see The House of Seven Gables. That's probably a slimmer majority than the ones who want to go, bring your daughter to the Witchery and make a broom. A lot of people come to Salem for a lot of different reasons. So a top 5 to me is just honestly going to be dependent a little bit on age, a little bit of interest and whatnot.
And there's so much to do. Like there's so much. If you're into horror movies, go check out Count Orlok's.
Yeah. If that's your thing, but honestly, like, I love horror movies. I love Count Orlok's. I think it's an absolutely fascinating museum. But if that's not your vibe,
then you may not be into it.
Just like House of Seven Gables, if you're like, I'm not really big into first period architecture and American literature, so be it. Don't go down there.
Skip it. Yeah. I will say, throw the Witchery in there. Whether your daughter is, 8 years old or 21 years old, I think that
you're bringing your mom.
Or you're bringing your mom. Anyone I think should go down to or your dad. Anyone should go down to the Witchery and make a broom. We have not done that yet, but I kind of want to.
Let's set a date.
So we'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll take you along with us too.
So like a top 5, gosh.
Ooh, I will add one thing though.
Reds?
No, I mean, that was in my initial thought. I mean, if you're bringing a bunch of adolescent kids to Salem, bring them to Reds and stock up on some carbs to keep them like satisfied. Satisfied throughout the day. But anyone who's coming with kids, go to Bit Bar. Yeah. Bit Bar has old arcade games from like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Like it's there's murals all over the walls, and of course they've got great cocktails for the parents. But definitely a spot to bring kids, regardless of the age.
Air hockey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ski ball.
Yeah. So I think if I had like a top 5 and it's just a generic across the board, make a broom, get a reading at your reader of choice. My personal recommendation would be Maison Vampire or Pentagram. Get dinner on the water and take a walking tour.
I think you're missing one.
Shoot. You know what? Here's the thing. Go get a picture at Witch Picks.
Ooh, good job. I'm just gonna jump on your bandwagon.
Okay.
That's good. That's a good one. It's a good itinerary.
Yeah.
Unless you're coming on Halloween.
Unless you're coming on Halloween. One last thing with that one. They asked about the dog friendly thing.
Yes.
We did just pass, and this is for this year, and hopefully it stays with us. We have a lot of outdoor eateries. I think pets are welcome at almost all outdoor dining facilities. Indoor dining facilities, not so much. And shops, I can't give you a list.
To the owner's discretion. Yeah, we couldn't tell you.
We are a very, very pet-friendly town. However, some of these places with their incenses and their smells and
just all their stuff
aren't a place where you want your dog to go.
All right, so we got 2 more.
2 more. Okay, so you did a little research to answer the next question for us.
I did.
So let me read that to you, and then you can tell us what you found out.
Okay.
I am always walking past these historic homes, buildings that are owned by the PEM, or Peabody Essex Museum, and they seem to just be sitting empty or unused. Any idea what these are being used for? It seems a shame that they aren't being used for much.
All right. So great question. I think it was one of the first ones that came in when we posted this prompt online, and we were both like, shoot. We walk past these buildings as well. And, you know, I'm sure the thought has floated across your mind here and there, but not so much. I haven't dug this hard. So I had to do a little bit of reading. And just for some context, we've talked a little bit about the Peabody Essex Museum, especially in our last episode on Salem's shipping and maritime history. It is one of the oldest continuously operating museums in America, established back in 1799. And when you're walking through downtown, and I actually just posted a picture of it today, which, you know, this is going to drop on Sunday. So yesterday, the East India Marine Hall, you're going to see that, you know, front facade, and the museum itself has just expanded from there. I will say, doing all this research made me want to do a whole episode on the Peabody Essex Museum. So I think we're going to have to add that to the docket.
We can bring that in next year.
Absolutely. So as this organization, you know, it starts from just 22 sailors bringing back those exotic goods that we mentioned. The penguin. We did not plan that. The penguin. And now it currently encompasses, so they consider it 3 campuses. So we have the Salem campus, we have a Raleigh campus, and then they like to consider their digital campus a 3rd campus. So they have a lot of digital works as well. They have over 1.8 million works, 33 historic buildings, 24 of which are historic houses, 5 of which are National Historic Landmarks, and 8 others that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So, like, you walk through downtown Salem, you're going to see a lot of old buildings. A lot of them are just residential. They're apartments. I mean, I think we both live in historic homes that have been chopped up into apartments at this point, but there are some buildings, especially in the heart of downtown on Essex Street, that you walk by, you don't see anyone going in and out of. Some of them you can't even go right up to, or at least it doesn't appear so. What are they doing with them? So I, like I said, did research, and I was so inspired by it that I actually took a stroll downtown and saw, you know, this spot. So I think what the person who wrote in was asking about, this is just to make a guess, was that area across from Salem Night Tour, Crowhaven Corner, Old Spot, that big block.
The Phillips Library.
Yes, you got the Phillips Library. Well, it used to be the Phillips Library, the Gardner Pingree House. If you turn the corner, you've got Goodnight Fatty.
Before that, next to the Gardner Pingree House, you have the Crown Shield Bentley House.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean,
okay.
General. I'm just trying to like point out places like that most people would recognize. This historic block is, I think, you know, what most people walk by that is PEM owned, but isn't really accessible. I say isn't really accessible, and yet today I went into places of Salem that I've literally never been, which is crazy. I know, your face is like, what are you talking about?
Where'd you go?
So I walked behind, like I was reading that, you know, it's this, so this block is filled with several buildings that span over 300 years worth of New England architecture. That is their significance. So I don't think it's not about going into these homes. And I know some of them you used to be able to. I know the Phillips Library, you used to be able to go in there. But it's more just they're there for their architectural importance. So if you walk through that block radius, that campus, you're going to see 300 years worth of New England architecture, Federalist Gardens. Jeffrey just rolled his eyes at me. I can't seem to figure out why. I had a great time today. I was alone. I found an open fence. I didn't even think I was allowed to go in it. But I wandered through all those back areas and I found a new favorite tree. Like, I can't wait for it to bloom. I will cut this out because it has no pertinence to the episode. But like, I was, as someone who has lived here for 6 years and who has walked through that spot a million times, I have not ventured fully into it. So I almost feel a little ashamed. And it's like, okay, there is some significance. Like, it showed me, what they are trying to convey. You may not be able to go into all these spaces. And you think about the practicality, right? You got to do climate control for these spots. Like, you have to fill it with artifacts that date to that period. You have to staff it with interpreters, and you have to do the interpretation to begin with. So it's a lot of money and time and work that goes into it. And I'm not saying the PEM doesn't have it, but I think they allot those resources elsewhere.
So yeah, sure.
Are you not a fan?
No. So I am. It's a catch-22 scenario, right? So I genuinely appreciate the Peabody Essex Museum and their impact in the city, and that they do have the means to keep these buildings protected, right? I feel like if they weren't here, we would have already lost some of these buildings. However, they also don't have the means to staff them all. Would you say 30?
There's 33
historic homes. And I could probably...
24 historic homes. Sorry, 33 buildings. 33 but yeah.
Okay, 24 historic homes. I could probably name half those if I thought real hard. And some of them I wouldn't know the name for. I'd just be like, oh, that one on the street by the place.
Right.
Right? Like... But part of that is they don't have, you mentioned climate control and artifacts in these places, and then you're going to have to staff them with experts who know the topic and know the subject. They're going to have to be employed. And there is, in all likelihood, not enough, there's not enough interest in these places. So on most of my night tours, I stop in front of the Gardner Pingree house, and I talk about a murder that happened there. And the murder weapon is on display at in the Peabody Essex Museum.
Right.
And I ask all of my tours who's been in the Peabody Essex Museum. And a small fraction have raised their hands.
They're saying they're not really looking for this.
Yeah. So if you are someone who's coming to Salem and is interested in these historic homes, in these buildings, go to the Peabody Essex Museum. Show them that you're interested. Show them that you want to see more of Salem's history, that you want to see these houses. And they are open sometimes.
Are you trying to rally our listeners to get the Peabody Essex Museum to open up more buildings? I love that.
The Gardner Pingree house used to be open on weekends.
I was going to say it used to be open.
Last summer, the Ropes Mansion was open for a couple weekends.
Okay, so let's pause for a second. I'm not good. Not everything is closed.
No,
like that one block I mentioned, that I think is what most people walk by because it is such a heavily trafficked area, and a lot of people see these historic buildings. They're like, why can't we go in them? But if you're interested, the Ropes Mansion, which the Peabody Essex Museum also owns, which of course everyone knows is Allison's house from Hocus Pocus, they do offer tours.
They do.
And I read on their website that they are going to be opening for Memorial Day.
There we go.
So there you go. You can tour Allison's house from Hocus Pocus.
And then in addition, they do then utilize some of them for other things. They have come to fruition, like the Pickman house next to the Cheddar Street Bearing Point is now is owned by the PEM, used by the city as a welcome center and gift shop for the Charter Street Bearing Point.
That one was off limits for the longest time.
Years, yeah. So there are a lot that we can't get into at the moment. Everywhere is short-staffed. The PEM is short-staffed. But if you're interested, I would say the first thing you do is when you come to Salem, go to the Peabody Essex Museum. There's a lot of people who just walk right by it and don't go in and check it out.
And also take a moment to appreciate the architecture, because that's really why they have those buildings there in the first place. I read that, any stone or brick you see in that block I was talking about is original to the space, but anything wood, so like the Quaker house, the Quaker meeting house you'll see, this is what inspired me to walk down there. There's something called a 10-footer. Have you heard of this?
I mean, I've been down there. Are you talking about the
little white house that's right next to the Quaker meeting house? I've never noticed it before. I've walked past it a million times.
Okay.
It's right next to the John Ward house. So, and also I think the John Ward house used to be a historic house museum as well. I'm not sure if they're open. They used to be free, but there is a small white home between the Quaker Meeting House and the John Ward House, and it was a shoemaker's shop. So
Cobbler.
it's called a cobbler. It's called a 10-footer because it's 10 feet by 10 feet. It was moved from Lynn, Massachusetts, and the pictures on the Peabody Essex Museum website showed a bunch of old, like, pre-industrial shoe tools, like cobbler tools.
That's cool.
So cool, right? So I went down there thinking that I was going to see a bunch of these cool artifacts in the window. I didn't.
That's okay. But in addition, they also recently have put up signage at a lot of their historic homes with a QR code on it. If you are interested, like I said, go to the Peabody Essex Museum, show them that you're here for this sort of stuff. But also, as you're walking around Salem, get out your phone, scan that QR code, and they'll know that, right? They'll know that that is then generating interest. And if there are people who are scanning their QR codes and listening to these stories, that will likely generate more interest in them opening these places for us to go see.
They're called PEM walks.
Yes.
They're so cool. I listened to a couple today.
Pretty neat.
Very neat. And the last question.
Final question.
This is a hard question. I don't have anything answered for this. I was just going to wing it.
Oh, okay. So do you want me to ask you?
Well, I was going to ask you.
Oh, okay, fine.
It's my turn to ask.
Okay, fine. Go for it.
What is your quest?
To give people a good story to tell.
Oh, to like give them a story to tell someone else.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's so simple.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So when if you come and take a tour with me, if you come and you interact, I want you to have a good time. I want you to learn something. It's dark, it's morbid, it's history, it's educational, but there's if at the end of the night they're going home, they're having a drink, they're like, I had a great time, I had a great tour. This tour, hopefully you walk away knowing more, having learned more, having had fun, and have a good story to tell about your time in Salem.
All right. In that same vein, I think just making an impact. So I had several kids on my tour last night, like a good 7 or 8 of them from ages 4 to 18. So a very wide range. And by the end of it, I had all these little kids kind of walking right up alongside me, almost tripping me, if I'm being honest. But their interest is always inspiring. And I want to be that tour guide that they remember 10 years from now, 15 years from now. We have those moments of our childhood
where we have a good story to tell.
Right? I remember going to SeaWorld. I don't remember how old I was. That's probably the worst example I could have came up with. But I Disney. I remember going on what's Splash Mountain? Mm-hmm. I was terrified. I didn't know that it was a roller coaster type of experience, so I hid. You can't even see me in the picture. I am hidden where your feet go. Terrified. I had my mom cover me. I almost jumped off. We're walking, or you're going through that dark, and I saw an exit sign above a door, and I almost got out of the boat, and my dad's like, "Don't you dare, Sarah. Don't you dare." Sorry, off topic. What was I saying?
Experiences, memories, kids following you. Piper of Salem.
So, in a totally different way, I want to be I want kids to look back.
Kids to search for the exit and run.
No, that's such a bad metaphor. Such a bad metaphor. I want to be that memory that kids can look back on. That they were it makes an impact, not just kids but individuals. You're saying, if they can walk away and talk about the tour, talk about whether it's the information we gave them, the stories, the experience themselves, being here, being in Salem. That's a job well done.
That's a job well done.
Aw.
I think that's it. Those are all the questions that you submitted. My goodness, we've been going on for ages here. So is that it? We done?
I think that's it.
Okay. Do we want to plug the next episode?
Yes. The first of several Q&As, I think, to come.
Yeah.
If you couldn't think of a question before this, save it. We'll definitely be doing some more further down.
The next planned one, which would have been the first planned one, was going to be September.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Sometime this summer,
Yeah.
like towards the end of summer. So if you had a question that you didn't get a chance to ask, please hold on to it, and we'll be asking you for those at a later date.
Very cool.
Later date.
Next episode?
Well, actually, the next episode that is dropping in just a couple days is our next interview.
We already talked about.
We are not revealing who they are.
Dun,
so
dun, dun.
we will be dropping a little hint, if not a blatant reveal, tomorrow, Monday morning, on our Instagram and TikTok. So if you guys are following us on there, you'll know.
If you're not, go follow us. No. Follow us into the oblivion. I like that. That was good. Other than that,
be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell a few friends.
And like we said, follow us on those social medias. That is at Salem the Podcast, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
And if you are visiting Salem, again, you can find our company's links to both of those in the show notes. Come take a tour with both of us.
Thanks for listening.
See you later.